Alright, so I am going to do the weight for a Tamiya Mini. This is the M08. Now I have the receiver here. This is a receiver similar to what I have in it. I'm just so we can subtract the weight. So this is 8 grams. Now the servo that is in it is 46 grams. So that's a total of 54. So I'm going to go ahead and minus 54 from this. So we are looking at 558 grams minus 54, 504 grams. So the complete chassis without electronics is just over 500 grams. I hope this is helpful. Again, this is the M08, so this is the rear wheel drive model. This is the one that I have in hand. All the stock screws, everything that should be on there. The only thing that is not installed is that little hook for the transponder, because this is going to have a MyLaps transponder, so that will not be needed. Right, so I'm going to start this M08 chassis by Tamiya. So this is one of the minis with the adjustable wheelbase. Going through the instructions, it looks like they are Tamiya good, which doesn't really say much. So we're going to get these out of the way, and we're going to just get everything out of the box. So the nice thing about Tamiya is everything comes in a bag that's oh wait, no, it's not labeled. And even if it were labeled, they don't really do a very good job. We can leave that in there. Stickers, which I won't be using. Well, I'll probably use some of those. But usually one of the things to do is to cut everything up, off the spurs and trim everything. So I'm probably going to do a lot of that off camera. The hubs, I may or may not use the ones that are here. I have the other hubs from the 7 model, which are better. These are the wheels, probably not going to use those either. So, when starting, if we look at number 1, we're going to need the chassis, which is this bag. With Tamiya, you really have to figure everything out. So go ahead and take these 2 halves out, and these are the halves, so we'll go ahead and take this off. And here you have the chassis. So these are the 2 halves, and these will just be adjusting. So if you look at these, right, these will scoot forward, scoot back. That's how everything adjusts. So you would just slide this in, and it goes in like this. So keys right there in between. You do have to trim these little things. But there it is. So right now, based on the image, we're going to be working with this portion right here. So for number 2, we will need this. And it looks like we will be needing the big massive bag, and then the arms are going to come over there. So I guess we'll move this over here. Next thing you know, it's these over. Well, I won't worry about that right now. So I have the chassis. Here is the bag, the large one. We have the foam bumper and a lot of the other tiny bags. All right, so these are the shock bits. This looks like it's a servo saver. And these are suspension components as well. Looks like it's preloads. These are gears. Here we go, so suspension, but there's a bunch of screws in here, so we're gonna have to open this up. Now, I'll be honest, Tamiya kits are some of the worst organized kits. That's obviously my opinion. If you know of a worse kit, let me know, put it in the comments. I'm just gonna get some of these gears out. Alright, I don't think I'll need this yet. Next you know I will. Alright, we'll just put some of these screws here. And do I want to open these? Alright. Now, one of the things that I'm noticing is the screws, well, one, unfortunately they're Phillips, but the worst thing is these are machining screws. So these are not the self-tapping screws that you find in the TT01 kit, for example, if you've built a Euro truck. So you're gonna have to be very careful when driving these in because you can damage the plastics. And the reason why is these are much softer plastic compared to, say, a higher end kit, like an Associated, a Techno, Losi, whatever the kit is. Traxxas for that matter. I do like the scale though. Alright, so here we have differential parts, and these look like you could probably find some metal gears that would be a similar size, but these are plastic. But then again, for the price of the kit, I'm not really surprised. Although, I don't know, these are fun. Are they really worth the money? If you measure it by fun, sure. That's if you're doing a class or if you're a big fan. If this were your very first kit, I would probably recommend getting something else. Because if you get a kit that's a higher end quality kit that's easier to build, you'll probably enjoy the building process a little more. So then you're more likely to get another kit, versus if you start off with a kit like this, these are such a pain to put together just because of lack of organization that you may end up hating the hobby just because of this one build. All right. I'm just gonna put everything here on the table. Now, one of the nicer things about this kit compared to the Euro truck is the out shafts, these little cups, they are metal, which is pretty nice. Many of the components in this kit are better than the Euro truck. Just the TT01 in general. But it's a completely different vehicle, completely different class. I do enjoy Euro truck. Euro truck I think is a really fun class. You know, it just kind of depends on where you go and race. If you race with a lot of folks, for example, that have Euro truck and enjoy it, it'll be really fun. If you start racing Euro truck against some of the team drivers out there, my God, they're gonna do whatever they can just to get more speed on the edge. Forget about the rules. They don't care about the rules. Here we go. Yeah, which is actually, I think the team drivers in these spec classes are the ones that generally kill the classes. But there we go. All right, we have one more little bag. See, and this is typical of Tamiya. So these appear to be parts of the shocks. They're in with the body clips and other non-shock related stuff. There's the little antenna cap. I don't know. Go figure. But here we go. So now I need to find the appropriate bag that has these components. So I went and separated the spurs with the arms. So these were the trees, they had the arms right in here. Everything's in a bag, separated these with little washers. Then you're gonna get these little pieces here. And this is what we're going to need for page 4 and page 5. So you're gonna take this little tub, you're gonna grab one of these nuts, so these were in this bag, and just make sure that the nylon is toward the inside. So the nylon will be here, the non-nylon will be on the other side. So you can just grab the two and drop them in, and there we go. And that will hold them so you can actually torque on them. Now these already got ready off camera. So you're gonna set the plastic and then the washer. Now the washer is gonna be this larger one, that thick, larger one. So it has the small inner diameter, large outer diameter. And these will go in here. Now you have a total of 4 of them. Now one of the things to note, I've already put this in here, there's 2 little holes. That tab, this little tab right in here, that's gonna go into the rearward hole. So that's front, this is rear, that goes back here in the rearward hole. And all you do is tighten them. Now do not over tighten these. You are going to need a Phillips number 2. And this is what holds the suspension pins, so the pins on the arms. So again, snug is all you need. Do not over tighten this at all. You can crack the plastic. This is really just somewhat cheap plastic. Here we go. And that's that portion right there. So at this point, we now need the pins, the suspension pins. Now we have this set over here and we have this other set over here. If you put them right next to each other, there's no difference. I'm just gonna grab 2. So these 2 are gonna slide right in here. Now I can place both of them in here and then slide the arm in. It's up to you. The arms that we need, notice that 2 of them are bulkier. You actually want the thinner ones. And one of the things to note is this rounded side, that's gonna go forward. Now, I'm actually going to put the pin in the arm first, and just make sure that you ream it if you have to, because this needs to swing freely. Now, in the front, let me get this out of the way. We're gonna use 2 of these little nylons and place them in the front, just in here. And this will go in there. And that's it. So let me just turn it, see if I can turn this without dropping anything. It's going to look something like this. Once it's in here. Don't do that. All right, well, let's do it again. We have this, we have all the parts, I don't lose anything. All right, so before I do this though, I am going to install the ball studs. So on the suspension arm, you're gonna need a ball stud here and a ball stud on this other side. And the ball studs that are needed are these little guys right here. So these are those 10 by 4 millimeter. The drawing's to scale. Well, it's off camera, but this is all you need. And it should be a 5.5 millimeter driver. Although Tamiya tends to get cute with their builds. I'll go ahead and install these. And remember, snug is all you need. And then we'll use the droop screws in a bit, so go ahead and install them in a bit. So the parts that you're gonna need are the parts that were here in this bag. Now, if you look at the tools page, these are the tools that you need. Notice it doesn't have any hex drivers. You will need hex drivers. So that's an important note. I'm gonna go ahead and take out my 1.5, as pretty sure these are 1.5. And if you've never built a Tamiya kit before, it's very important to be patient. Just be patient. They are by far one of the worst kits to build because of the instructions. So if you can handle one of these, you can handle anything. Now, this was supposed to be a 4mm. So let me go ahead and actually get the correct one. Wait, actually, is this a 4mm? Ah, that is the 4mm. All right, I'd rather check though. So these are the 4mm that you need, and they're gonna go in the front little section. So we have this, and let's see, let's orient the arm. So this is gonna be the right, so it's gonna be this one right over here. All right. We have the pin, that's the little troop screw. I'm gonna grab those two little nylons that I showed you already. All right, so in the arms, you're gonna have to cut that rear tab. And then once you cut that, everything's gonna fit perfectly. Now, Tamiya does reuse many of these parts in other kits. That's the reason why you have to make such modifications. It's also why the bags aren't labeled. Alright, I should have placed the pin in here. Alright, now everything fits perfectly so it doesn't hit. And now we can go ahead and grab, you are going to need two of these smaller washers right over here. So you grab two and then you place them right in here. So what I'm going to end up doing is, these are the two screws. So that's that little pin that's going to go in that hole. So go ahead and just put the screw right through. And actually I missed the big washer. So big washer, screw. Once you have that, it'll go through this little plastic bit. Now, right in here, you grab two of those little washers, and they will go right in there. And now that you have this, you can go ahead and finish off the installation. I'll place the washers down here. I don't want to drop them. Everything. So I'll install this first. So I'll do that. Let's place the screw right in here. Alright, I'll slide the next one. And there we go. All right, now you're gonna need the two nuts there. I didn't place them, I should have. There they are. So I'm gonna have to pull on the screw just enough to set that nut in there. Now the nylon goes toward the inside. That's very important. If not, you'll figure it out. Hopefully. All right, and again, snug is all you need. Do not over tighten. Everything moves freely. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop the nut. So again, the nylon is on the inside. The non-nylon part goes on the outside. And we're gonna do everything all over again. So the other arm is ready. I'm gonna go ahead and just put these two nylons in there. And I'll set it. I'm gonna slide the arm. And we'll go ahead and use this. So we'll go in here. Hold it. I'm trying to keep this in camera and then doing it. It's actually a challenge. I'll try this again. Alright, there's one. Well, I guess I can always just flip it. So just turn it this way when you're doing it. Drop it in, and then there's gonna be enough play for you to turn it back and then set it in the proper hole. That's a lot easier. I was struggling for no reason. But here we go. All right, and that's it. So we have the arms, right? After a few headaches, everything's ready. Now I can move on to the gearbox. So for the gearbox, I need a few little parts. First, I need to put this in a different location. So, gearbox. We're gonna go ahead and need some gears, which is quite a lot of gears in this kit. We will need this one. So it's out of these, it's the larger one, which happens to be not the long one. So that's the one that you're gonna be grabbing. And you're gonna have a bearing that's gonna go right in here. That's gonna be one of these little small ones. So you're gonna grab that, and that should go right all the way in there. How far in does it go? All the way. Right, go ahead and press this in. No, it doesn't get pressed in. Maybe it's a smaller one. Must be. Alright, let's see, we have a smaller one right over here. No way that can be it. A bit larger. Alright, let's see, what do we have here? Oh, those are the same size as those. Alright. Scavenger hunt. Right. Try every single one. Let's see, those are all the same size. I already tried one of these. It has to be one of these. Alright. Let's try that little shaft. So I'm gonna look for this piece first. Once I figure out that piece, I'll figure out the bearing. Here we go, found it. So this has a little hex. This is the piece that we need. And once we have this, right, see, that bearing cannot go through, so it's gonna have to be this bearing. Right, so it's gonna be one of these medium bearings that we have. Yeah, they're all the same. No, they're not. All right, it's gonna be one of these. All right, this one right here. And doesn't fit inside of the gear. Right, the bearing that you actually need is a small one. It's the really thin one. It looks just like this one. So it's one of those thin ones. It goes in there, then you use this. This is gonna, so the bearing's gonna be sitting right in here. So I'll leave that there. The very first thing I need to do is grab the motor mount. Now you see that little crescent? That's where this is gonna screw through. So the screw that I need is just an 8mm machine screw, which is one of these here. I'm just gonna confirm the measurement, 8mm, perfect. And that will go there. We'll hold it with my driver. I am gonna put some thread lock compound on it, which I believe, oh, it's not behind the instructions. Here we go, it's underneath the bag. All right, here we go. That's, oh boy, so now I have to, there it is. Damn it. Oh, sorry, all right. Let's just go ahead and do that. Then you can just use your nut driver if it's long enough, or a little wrench, and then just tighten this thing fully. So there we go. So that is tight. And here it is. So now I can go ahead and slide that bearing in. So I can slide the bearing. Once I slide the bearing, I can slide the gear. Once I slide the gear, this should be one of these larger ones. Yep, larger one goes in the back. Here we go. And this is set. So at this point, I just need the gearbox, the large gearbox. And that larger gearbox is going to be on this component that appears to have some arms, but they're braces, and it's this larger portion here. So we're going to go ahead and take that off. We're also going to take the other half off, the opposite half. This will be here. I am just going to trim these little tabs just a little on, actually just the one side for this one. The other side, well, I'll trim the other side. It's not too bad, but, and I will trim this part of the gearbox as well. Here we go, and that is it. So I'll go ahead and place that on the other side. And here's the gearbox. So you're gonna hold it like this, and if we look at these, the gear will go, let's see, I don't want to drop the bearing. This goes right in here, just like that. And it's gonna sit just like this. Bearing's gonna go in here. So this is where your motor goes. Pinion's going to come in contact with this gear, and then the rest of your gearbox gears are gonna be on this other side. So as of now, we're just gonna finish this up. We need, it appears 3 8mm screws. So it's gonna be these right here. And again, be careful when you're driving these in because these are machining screws. And it's because of the type of plastic. Of course, if you've built other kits, they use plastic. And if you're thinking, wait, what's the difference? It's the plastic. The screws are machining screws as well, used on kits, Traxxas, Techno, Losi, whichever brand. So the higher end brands. Now if you're thinking Tamiya is a high-end brand, sure it is. Now Tamiya, one of the impressive things about Tamiya is it's one of the few brands that probably has a licensed kit for almost any vehicle ever produced. I mean, I am exaggerating to a point, but they do have licensed vehicles for many different brands, different makes. So if there's a particular car that you really like and you're looking for an RC model, that's a scale RC model, Tamiya is probably where you want to look. Just an advantage. Their Ford GT model is a very nice model. That's a TT02 if I'm not mistaken. Here's the longer one. At least the motor mount's aluminum. It dissipates some heat. But here we go. So that is page 5, up to page 5, part 5. Right, so now I just flipped over to page 6. So page 6, I'm going to continue with the gearbox. Now I'm going to need a few other components. I'm going to leave this over here. I will be needing these gears on this other side. Yes, they are plastic, but you're not going to be running that much power. At least you shouldn't be running that much power to these vehicles. If you do a brushless motor, 21.5, to be honest, would be more than enough. So that was the bearing that was on this side. So that fits right in. And then on this other end, you're going to use those smaller diameter bearings. And it'll just press in. Now be gentle. If the bearing's not pressing in, don't force it. because you could damage the plastic. Here we go. And it'll probably be very difficult to find stuff for these unless you're in Canada. Canada tends to have more Tamiya parts. Here we go. All right, we have those. So now we're gonna grab the shafts. So we're gonna have a short shaft and a long shaft. Now, I'm gonna begin with the long shaft. So this is the long shaft. There's the bearing. This will just slide right on through. Everything should sit properly. Now, we need to grab that piece, but before I do, so I'm gonna skip this, I'm not gonna go into it. I'm gonna look into this one. So this is the short shaft. We grab the gear, I already have those two bearings in. And the idler gear, this is what we have. So now we just need this piece right here, which you're just gonna have to go based on this picture. There's nothing here on the other side, which again, manual's off camera. So let's go ahead and grab those pieces. I'm looking for these two pieces. There we go. It's right here. All right, so you're gonna have to open this tree, and the parts that you need are this one on the far end, this one right here. All right, once it's trimmed, that will fit perfectly right in there. And this one will fit perfectly on the other side. So you have your little bushings. It'll probably take you longer to find the parts than it will to actually assemble them. Great. So, gearbox. Now that we have the gearbox, we're gonna orient the gearbox this way. Now that it's here, I'm gonna grab this longer one. This longer one is gonna go in here. Now, before I place it there, I am going to be using some grease. I am not going to be using the Tamiya grease. Let's see, well, maybe I should use the Tamiya grease. Tamiya grease is actually a very good grease. That is one thing that I do like about them. Although, I think I can use, yeah, let me use this grease instead, just so I don't have to open up another one. This one will work. Tamiya grease, oh, it's not open. I was trying not to open the other one. I'm opening this one. Go ahead and remove this. Oops. Yeah, Tamiya grease is a very light grease, which works great for gears, as opposed to bearing grease or the black grease. I don't really like black grease. Black grease you don't have to maintain as soon, and by soon I mean, you know, if you drive it a lot in a short periods of time, you'll be fine. But you do want to go through and clean it out, say every year, because black grease gets tacky really fast. That's a major downside of black grease. So let me go ahead and apply more grease in here. And perfect. All right. There we go. Now that I have this, go ahead and install this one. This one will go here. Yeah, there's a bunch of grease here that will never be used because I applied it too far down. other gear is good. And now I can take the other half and I can go ahead and seal this. So here's the secondary half. Just slide right in here. And this fits not the way I want it to. I'm gonna go back real quick a page, because this does not make sense. Huh, all right, I see. The heads of these screws, they look rounded, but it's not these large round ones. So that's a bit of a problem. So you're gonna be looking for the countersunk screws, and those countersunks seem to have a slightly rounded head, which makes sense why that cover did not fit. So we'll go ahead and place this one here. So it'll be, these aren't even rounded. Those pictures are horrible pictures. These are perfectly flat. Oh, here we go. It's these little black ones. Those are the ones I should have used over here. All right, for this, I'm actually going to use the number 1. Don't be lazy, just switch your drivers, get a number 2 if you need a number 2, and then get a 1 if you actually need a 1. I'm gonna use the longer driver. Alright, I've swapped the screws. So these are somewhat rounded, but not completely rounded. So look for those. Those are the ones. And now this will sit perfectly. So that's the entire gearbox right in here. After this, we would normally install the motor. I'm not going to install the motor, mainly because the motor is already soldered to the SE, so I have to see if I have to unsolder and work on the length. So I'm going to do everything before the motor. So that'll be at a later time. This is actually going to get a 21.5 motor. That's really all you need. So we're going to skip this entire section and we're going to move on to 10 on page 7. So 10 on page 7, well, I guess I should tighten this, right? So if you're probably thinking, wait, you didn't put the screws in through there. You are absolutely right. So the screws that I just removed, those are the ones I'm going to be using based on the heads. So I only need 2. And those 2, there's going to be 1. Let's see, let me orient this correctly. So that's the gearbox, here it is. They go from behind, so you're gonna have one that's gonna go right in through here. And snug is all you need. Do not over tighten these, you will actually warp the case. So one goes in here, that is the bottom one, which is shown here. It looks like it's the top. So if I place this that same way, so it goes in through here, the other screw is gonna go in right through here. And you can also see that there's a little recess, can't really tell, but that's where the head of the screw is gonna sit. and that's it. So once these sit flush, that's it. Don't tighten anymore, you're gonna warp the case. Perfect, okay. I'm ready for the differential. So here are the differential halves. Now you are going to need grease for this. I am gonna use black grease for this. I could use the green slime. Actually. It's right here. So we'll use the green slime for the O-rings. They last longer if you lube them up properly. That way they don't get all torn up. So all of these components, just use a little of the green slime. Again, you can use just grease. You can use some of the Tamiya grease if you want. And we're gonna grab one of these little cups and I'm gonna slide it through. So it's just the cup, slides through. The instructions, I know, are off camera. Then we're gonna need the washer. Now that's going to be this larger one. And these are very important. Make sure that you install these. And the reason why is the pin, so I'm just using my driver to push this through. The pin is gonna sit in there. And if you don't use that, you're gonna tear up the O-ring with the pin. Great, perfect. All right, now that we have that, we're gonna go ahead and grab the pin. Now the pins, it's just gonna be these little small ones. I should use the other pliers. There we go, so I'll drop this in. Too far, there we go. And now I can just go ahead and grab one of the gears. Gears are right over here. Remember, it's these little plastic ones. So these, they do come off nicely. So that is one good thing about them. They do come off nicely. Now you do get these little plastic crosses. The only thing though is, I did see these. These look like, oh, nope, never mind. You are gonna be using the plastic ones. So you're gonna grab the bigger, this larger plastic gear. This larger plastic gear is going to sit right in here, and then just turn it until it sits properly, which it is now sat. So once it's just sat there, just leave it, and now you can work on the other side. So the other side will just go right in here. Again, use some green slime to lubricate this here, and if you use a little too much, no big deal. All right, that will go right in there. And we'll go ahead and grab the washer. Washer fits in right in here. And then the little pin. Pin goes, there we go. All right. Not push it far enough. Oh, this thing moved, that's why. So do not force these gears in. Here we go. They should just slide right in. If you force them, you run the risk of breaking them. You do not want to break them. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and place these in here, but this is plastic. Plastic on plastic is usually, you don't really need a lubricant there. It works fine. And I'm just gonna set all the gears, once all the gears are here, and I'll just leave this in here. At this point, I am ready to fill, and I'm going to be using, usually it's a good idea to go light. This is a rear-wheel drive vehicle. You don't want it to slide. If you go too thick on the oil, you will slide a lot. So I'm going to try this one. Usually you want to go light and then start going heavy. I'm actually going to go a little heavier and then start going light. So I'm going to put some of this oil in here. And what I'm going to be looking for with this oil is if I start sliding, so the rear just starts sliding, so it oversteers, then I'm just going to go with a slightly lighter oil. But if it, sorry, I said oversteers, yes. But if I see that the car's not kind of driving through, I'll just go heavier. So if that inner rear tire starts slipping and losing a lot of traction, then I'll go heavier on the oil. All right, there. I'm gonna add just a little more oil. Don't overfill it. The problem is if you overfill it, what's gonna end up happening is this is not gonna seal properly. Then you're gonna develop a leak. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push oil inside of these little gaps here in the crosses. All right, then you can just let it sit for a while, and then once the oil is sat at its level, you should have at least a millimeter, just 1 millimeter below the level of the line. And then once you do, you can go ahead and close it. So when you close it, see, I have a little bit of excess, and you see how it pushes it out? So I will go ahead and remove this and take some of that oil out. But not too much, because you have to remember that the gasket is going to take up some of that volume, or it will increase the volume. It doesn't seem like much, but it's actually enough to make a difference. All right, so now go ahead and place this here. Gasket is in there. All right, that spins. Now, for these little screws, these 4, you're gonna need a driver. So again, the instructions, I didn't see anything about a hex driver, but you are going to need a hex driver. So you're gonna need a 1.5 millimeter. My fingers are all covered in silicone oil. Alright, here we go. And I'm just driving it close, but I'm not tightening it fully until I get all 4 of them. And then the 4th one, I will initiate the full tightening. So I'm actually now just getting them closer, still not fully tightening them. And this is the one I'm going to tighten now all the way. So if I can get my driver on that thing. All right, so that one's all the way. So now I'm going to cross all the way to the other side. And now I'm going to go over here. And now to the opposite side. All right, now I'm going to check all of them. And that's it. All right. Differential is set, it works smoothly. as it should. And now I'm gonna need the bearings. So it's gonna be these large bearings. They're just gonna go here, sides, and push them all the way in, push it all the way in. So that's the complete differential. Now for page 8, we get to mate all of this together. Now the differential, based on the image, if you face this or point this away from you, the flatter side of the differential, notice the left side, right? And that's where that half is. That's going to go on the left-hand side. So that's gonna sit right in here. And then the gearbox is just going to sit right on top, right in here. So your motor would be in here, in this area. Once this is sat, you will need the 3x8mm screws, which are these. It looks just like this, which means that I need to find a second one. That one's small. Here we go. Found it. And a number 2 driver, Phillips driver. And the screws that you're going to be placing are these bottom ones right in here. I'm not driving it all the way in yet. I'm going to grab the second one. Then once I have the second one, this one, I will drive all the way in. And now the two are mated together. So now we can begin with some of the other components, and by some of the other components, the bracing. So you will need parts from a different tree. Now, before I look for the bracing, I'm just gonna go ahead and install the ball studs, which will go right in here. So I'll put it closer to the camera, right here on the edges. This is where your links are gonna go. And it's just a lot easier if I do them now. There we go, so those are the ball studs. Now I'm gonna look for that brace, and that brace is going to be on this tree right here. So it'll be this component here in this section. This is that part from the motor that we need. But again, I'm not going to be using that just yet. This piece just goes right in here, so this is gonna brace everything together. And for this, we're gonna need 4 screws that are the same 3x8, which here we have a handful. Those are these. And I'm just gonna introduce these screws. I'm not gonna drive them all the way in. Until I have them all. You know, once they're all in place, then I'll completely drive them. And then once I drive these in, there's going to be one more screw that's going to tie the gearbox. Just go ahead and install these. Now, Tamiya kits, I always complain about the instructions and the build. Now, luckily, once you build one, it's not as frustrating to build a second one. You already know what to expect. And it's with all of their instructions. I've not seen a single one with wonderful instructions. Tekno's the one I think that has the best instructions ever. Let's see, so now we need a 20mm. It should be this one. That is 19. That is 19. That's probably 19 because there's nothing else that's this size. All right, well, this one, there's gonna be this hole hidden right in here, right there. That's the one, right in there. That's where the screw's going to go. Although it may refuse at first. Then you can just push in, and there's gonna be a nut that's gonna go on this other side, so that's this nut that was left over. And then you can just use your nut driver and screwdriver to install this. It's just a 5.5, so now that I have it in, I can just use the other driver. Should have used the stubby screwdriver. And again, snug is all you need. Do not over tighten this, you will warp your gearbox. So as soon as it's snug, just stop. That's all you need. Everything moves great. Now, one of the things to note is the lubricant on the differential. I put lubricant on the other gear. That's the reason why I didn't put any on the differential. But make sure that you put lubricant there, or else you are going to destroy the gears. So that's something very important. But as of now, that's this complete little area. So now we can go ahead and move on to 14 on page 8. All right, so I got these and I went ahead and just removed the rear hubs that I'm gonna be using. Now there's two different ones here in the picture. The ones that I'm gonna be using are these C3 right in here. So just to show you the difference, this is what they look like. So I'll go ahead and place these on the other side. Now, these were the ones that I had gotten, but I can't really tell the difference because somebody recommended I use the M07, but they look very similar to these 8s. So I'm gonna go ahead and install what came with the kit because, to be honest, just by the looks of these, I cannot tell the difference between the hubs. So I've also drilled a hole right in here. You're gonna have to drill a 2mm hole right in there. You can go a little smaller, 1.5, and then the little presser screw, a little grub screw is going to just shape it the size. But we're gonna start with these. Now, you are going to be using grease, so you will need some grease here. And just use some black grease for these components. If you over dab grease, that's fine. The only thing it's gonna do is it's just gonna create a shield for dirt. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab the little barrel. So these are the little tiny barrels that are in here, and I'm just lubricating the entire thing. So that will go in here. I surely overdid the grease, I'll tell you that. All right, it's way too much. Yep, definitely too much. But that's all right, we'll wipe some off. All right, there we go. So now for these, you're gonna be using these pins on this other side. So you grab these, now you wanna make sure that the barrel, that little barrel that was in there, the hole is exposed so that that pin, this pin, can go right on through. I'm gonna go ahead and take this out. Or if you don't, then you'll never get the pin through. So we'll do this, I'll stick this inside. And now that the pin is through, here we go, we have this. Now there is a left and a right and a left. So imagine this is turning this way. There's gonna be a clip that's gonna go in here, and that's the retaining clip for the pin, and they are directional. If you put this the wrong way, it's going to slip out. So what you need is place it like this so it looks like a G. Can't really tell in the camera, but it goes like this. And in one of these little holes, so I'm gonna go ahead and place it in here. So if I'm pointing this toward the camera, so it looks like a G, I'm just gonna drive this over, and this is going to sit in one of the holes, but one of the holes where the pin is not in. So I'm putting it in this hole, the pin, the pin is where my thumb is. So that is in the hole, so you can see the pin now. And this spring will just slide over. And this is the retainer. I'm just gonna push a little on it and try to make it jump over so it lands on the groove. And this is it. So notice the pin is here. That's where it starts, and the pin is here. The reason why is when this is spinning, so you want it to spin this way, so it actually holds everything. And that is it. So this now holds. And just set it down. And that's this entire portion of the manual right here. Now, I'm going to begin with this other section, and I'm going to begin with the bushings and the bearings. So here, well, we actually only need one of these, and I said bushings and bearings, but one of them is a washer. So we have that, and here are the bearings. All right, now, bearing goes in here, and after placing the bearing here, this can now go through one of the hubs. So we're gonna grab these. Again, there's no left or right, they're identical. So this will just go right in here. And now that it's in here, we're gonna go ahead and just place this little blue aluminum bushing right in here. And that collar will slide right through. Let me just make sure. Unless I have the wrong one, there is a high chance I have the wrong one. I'm gonna go ahead and remove this and just double check. Nope, that is the correct one. So this one will go here. That's that's simply a spacer for the two bearings. That's all it is. I was just having a difficult time installing it. But now this is installed, I can go ahead and drop the other bearing. And once that bearing is in there, just go ahead and place this here. Now I can use this little tiny washer, and the washer will sit right in here. Now to hold everything in place in the meantime, just use one of these body pins or body clips and just set it right in here. And for the final bit, we're just going to need our little ball stud. This little ball stud, oops, wrong spot, this will go here. So it's gonna go toward the rear. Keep in mind that we are building the left side. Then we're gonna build the right side, which is the same exact thing, but not, haha. No, I'm kidding. It's gonna be very similar. The difference is that little G-spring is gonna go in reverse. So that's what I'm gonna build now. All right, now for the right side, that's on page 9, so that's step 15, page 9. I'm gonna be doing something very, very similar. So I'm gonna grab one of these, and I'm gonna grab this little drum. So I have to grease this drum. I'm also gonna just put some grease in here, in the groove. And I'm gonna place that little barrel, and again, make sure that the hole is sticking out the side. And now I'm gonna grab this. I'm actually gonna put some grease inside. All right. I'm gonna wipe the excess off. and I'm going to drive the pin through. That is it. Now, I do have a lot of excess grease, no big deal. That's something I can wipe off later. I'm not concerned about it right now. Let's go ahead and wipe the excess, all right? And this pin's not, there we go. Now that it's set, I can go ahead and grab that little G spring. So again, it looks like a G, but now keep in mind that this is now going to be on the right side. So it's going to be like this, and it's going to be spinning this way. So the G, I'm facing this toward the camera, so if you're facing this toward you, the G is going to be backwards now, right? So it's going to start over here and then loop this way. So again, find a hole that's empty, that one right there. We're going to go ahead and place this. And there we go. So this is it. So this is the right side. So just make sure that you keep the items separate. And I'm going to go ahead and place a bearing right in here, and then I will need to place that little aluminum spacer, which is way too nice for something you're not going to see. But we're going to go ahead and fit this inside. Now that it's inside, I'll grab the other one. There we go. Now, this bearing doesn't want to press in, so I'm just going to grab my nut driver. It does not want to. Alright, so now this can go in. Now that it's in, this pops out. Go ahead and apply. There it is. Alright, so I'll apply a little washer here. One of the things that I find interesting is the design. The bearing will actually stick out, so that is normal. Why? I really don't know. Maybe to give it extra width in the rear. That's possible, right? To reuse the same hubs. That way they don't have to design or make a mold for other parts. But once we have this, now I can go ahead and grab the pin and slide the pin in through there later on for the wheels. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and use a body clip just to hold everything in place. And this is it. So here we go. Now I need that ball stud right here. And again, ball stud goes in the rear. There we go. And we're now finished with step 3 on page 9. So after this comes the turnbuckles, which is the part I strongly dislike. I really don't like turnbuckles. Now for the turnbuckles, you have some long ones and short ones. The short ones are the ones that you're going to be using in the rear. Now, the long section is going to be left thread. So this is left thread, this is going to be right thread. So as you're threading, you're actually going to go toward the left on this side. So that's one important note. Now, let's see, I have a few T-wrenches. So I'm going to use this T-wrench just to get this started. So I'm just going to continue threading this to the left, and I'm going to place this here. And I'm going to thread it all the way to that little section right there. And then I'll install the other one. Surprisingly, these turnbuckles aren't as bad as some other ones that I've done. I still don't like doing turnbuckles, but they're not that bad. Maybe because the plastic is softer, perhaps. I don't know. Now I'm just gonna hold on to this, and I'm gonna go ahead and go. So I'm gonna drive this one all the way flush. And because this side's left thread, this side will start unscrewing itself once I get to the end. There we go. So now I have to align it. Now this part, this is going to be this side. But actually no, because I need to face them all the same direction. So here it's the long section I'm having on the right, so it'll be the long section that's going to go on the right, because that's the way it's on the picture. You can flip them as long as they are all oriented the same direction. It doesn't matter. The main thing is you want everything oriented the same direction. That way you know which way you're extending them or which way you're shortening them. So I'm going to place this way, and what I actually need is this will go this way. So I'm going to go ahead and hold on to the actual nut portion. You can use a little wrench that's supplied in the kit. And I'm going to go ahead and tighten this so that this faces down. And that's it. All right, so this faces down, because that's the way they're going to install on the kit. So I'm going to go ahead and just place these. So I'll install this one, and it's just going to snap on. And then I'll install this one, and again, it'll snap on. And check the orientation, make sure you got them correct. All right, so long sides on the right, short sides on the left. So that is the way it should go. So at this point, we can go ahead and just install the rest of the components. We can go ahead and snap this on. So now that is on. And this will go right in here. And we're gonna need these little pins here. So notice that groove right there. That groove, you want to make sure this faces this way, because that's where you're going to place the set screw. That's going to lock it in place so it doesn't slide out. See this thing? Let's go right here. Nope, it's not working. There we go. And it's there, then you would grab the set screw and place it in there. I'm gonna go ahead and put the right side in first though. Again, it'll just snap in place. Now I can set it. There we go. There we go. All right, so we have set screws. You're going to need a 1.5 millimeter driver for these set screws. And I'm just going to drive them in. That's going to lock this in place. Do not over tighten this. If you over tighten this, you're gonna damage the hub, and then that pin's gonna slide out. That's the excess material that I was just pulling off. All right, let's go ahead and do the other one on the other side. So again, very important that you pre-drill those holes right in here, or else this will not hold. And you do want to apply a certain level of pressure, and the reason why is the plastic. If you do not, it's not going to go all the way through. Now, I don't want to over tighten this, so I'm just going to push on it. It's not pushing anywhere, so that's all I'm doing. I'm just checking. All right. This one is set as well. And that is your rear suspension. Now we need the two braces on the side. This is gonna help with this portion here. The battery goes in there, but those are these two wings right here. So we're gonna go ahead and just cut these off. These actually cut off pretty clean. And these, here, let me see. They go this way, but they go underneath. So we're gonna go ahead and place these here. Something that catches my attention is the fact that the screws go in through the top, but that's the way it goes. Now the screws are going to be countersunk, possibly. No, they're not. Let's see. Okay, they're slightly rounded. So these right here, slightly rounded heads. So it's these little black screws. They look just like this. Camera's not focusing. But these are the ones that we're going to be using for this installation. Now I only see two. I need to find the other two. Those are ball studs. Huh, interesting. Well, I mean, at least all the hardware is out on the table. Oh, you know what? It's gonna be these over here. They're the same. They're a little longer. Let me just double check the size. According to this, should be 6 millimeters. And these are 7 millimeters. So these have to be it because the others are 5. Oh boy. So far everything's been short until this time. I don't know why now they would be longer. And it's not these because of the shape of the head. It's a slightly rounded head. These are perfectly flat. But there's 4 of these, there's only 2 of these, so it has to be these here. So I'm gonna go ahead and install one, and if it's the correct length, it shouldn't go through beyond this piece. So we'll see. Oh, great. It does go beyond. Maybe it is. Let's look at this. Right, I'm gonna look for 4 other screws really quick, see if I can find them. And I cannot. Let's see. These are the only screws that are not out. Alright, these were the 2. It's gotta be those. I guess I can just put a piece of foam. Put a piece of foam there. I mean, this is what holds the battery down. Good thing I use hard packs. which is something that I do recommend just in anything using hard packs. Now I'm talking about surface vehicles. I'm not talking about drones, but on these I always recommend hard packs. And the reason why is sometimes you'll take a hard crash and you'll destroy your LiPo battery in one crash. I've actually seen people on their very first run, brand new battery, hit it and then puff up the battery. All right, great. Let's see. Oh, there we go. So we have those. That is secure. It says 6 millimeters. Those were 7. We are going to ignore it. So now we're going to go on to page 10, step 18, and now we're going into the body mounts. So the body mounts here in the rear, we will be needing a few pieces, and those pieces are going to be on one of these trees up here. Let me just find the correct one. That looks to be the front, so this is, does this look like, all right. So the really long ones, these are gonna go in the rear, and then these will have to be trimmed. Maybe. I am planning on using a hatchback body, so I may leave them to their full length. So if you're running a different type of body, you would definitely need to trim those. Let's see, what else could I use from this tree? Nothing. I don't think I need anything else from this tree except for that one piece. I want to grab the other one that is similar, and I'm going to grab the same long piece. So I have those two. Now I am looking for that T, and that will be, let's see, does it look like this one? Just want to make sure that's, I'm going to go over and just double check, make sure the front one is a different piece. This is where we begin the front construction. Front body mounts. Oh, skipped page 14. Oh, I see it skips completely. It uses a short one. All right, good. Well, that answers that question. So we are going to take this longer one. So this is the longer one that we're going to be needing. That's this rear one. Now we need that brace that goes on top. So I'm going to go ahead and place this here, and that brace does not appear to be on this tree. That's on this one right over here. So if you remember the two little wings, this is that part from the motor I spoke about earlier. So it's this very last piece, and we're going to go ahead and remove this. So once this is removed, one of the things to notice, there's a difference between left and right. So go ahead and place this, and now I just need that little box. So there's this little tiny box right up here. That's what I'm now looking for. And that's going to be on this one. So look for the bulkhead, that front bulkhead right here, and it's going to be right over here on the side. And those are the pieces that I need for this. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab the chassis. I'm going to grab this piece. Now this piece is going to face forward. Notice those two little holes. These will key in right here in the rear. Oh, actually no, they go in the front two holes. So these are going to go in the front two holes. Just locate this hole right here. That part is going to sit right on top. It's going to sit right here, just like this. Now, this does not screw in by itself. You need this part, and notice the holes that are farther out versus farther in. So the farther out, those are forward, Those are toward the front. We're gonna go ahead and do this. And now that these are in here, I can go ahead and install 10mm screws. So now when I have these screws, I believe it's these, I'm gonna measure them. 10, well, these are the first screws that are the correct size. 10mm, 10mm, and I'm missing one, there should be 4. Let's see, these look like 8s. Yep, those are 8s. Ah, here we go. It's probably not these 3, it's gonna be these 4 right over here. All right, here we go. And they're all regular screws. And it's there. All right, so now I can just use my Phillips number 2. These are Phillips number 2. What? Oh my God, these are hexes. You have to be kidding me. Why would you do this? Now here, they don't look like hex screws. They're Phillips screws in the picture. So why are these hex screws? So there's a combination between Phillips and hex. Don't know why. Here, there's 4 screws on this other side. All right, these are 10mm. I'm gonna use these. I actually prefer hex, but because I'm using Phillips on everything, well, almost everything except for that 1.5. I'm gonna go ahead and use these. And this one doesn't want to go in. All right, let's see. Why does it not? Let's try it again. Oh, this one does. So it's just the one. Let's go ahead and place this one. And here we go. Perfect. There we go. So we have all 4 screws. This is where the body mounts go. So the body mounts, these long things, these are going to sit right in here, and then they just screw in through the bottom. But I'm not going to do these yet. I want to do this little section back here. So this component, this one will go here. Now these are the countersunk screws, and they are going to be those little round ones that appears. These are 8mm. Let me just make sure it's these. It's a slightly rounded head. Not here though. Here it looks slightly rounded. Here it looks perfectly flat. So it's not these. It will be these right in here. Let's see, 8mm. Should be 8. Let's see. All right. It's gonna be these right here. It's the shinier ones. Head is perfectly flat. It's too small. And again, it's a Phillips 2. Now, the TT01 is much easier to build than this. So if you're just starting, you may want to consider TT01. For example, the Euro truck, right? The Hanman, for example. They come with a body. I'll be honest, the body though takes a long time. It's going to take you almost the same amount of time to put the body together than it does to put the rest of the kit together. All right, here we go. And remember, snug is all you need, lightly snug. Do not over tighten these, you will destroy the plastic. I mean, this plastic, this will break easily under high impact. That's the other reason too. If you want something to go super fast, high power, do not get one of these Tamiya kits. Tamiya makes a better kit, far better kit than this for something that's, say, over 45 miles per hour. These kits will simply not last. Well, unless you never crash. Here we go. So now I can go ahead and install the post in the back. Now notice they are keyed, so that goes in here. And the screws that go are just the 8mm. These are 8mm, so I'll go ahead and take 2 of those. I'll use the long driver. Right, and now I can use this one, and this one just keys on to the other side. So this section is complete. So the rear of the car is almost complete. We still have just a few more parts. Now on page 11, step 20 is the next part where we have to look for the braces that actually tie this to this. And those braces are these right here. So it's the really long ones at an angle. So there's one in one tree and there's one in the other. Now there is not a left and a right, so these will just slide in. So notice one hole is bigger, so it will just simply slide in right in here. And we're just going to need 2 of the 3x8s. And these will be installing in, so if you start on the outside, just go outer hole, 1 hole in. Now these reinforcements are actually pretty nice, especially when you're running the larger bodies, such as the body I'm going to be running on this one. The reason why is it does reinforce this so that the body doesn't just come in all the way forward and into your tires. That's if you get hit or something happens. It just gives the body more stability. Now you're going to be needing some body pins, and the body pins are going to go below, and the body pins are going to be keeping this from just coming all the way down. So you really have to see, oh, I actually missed the brace that blocks these two things together. So let me go ahead and show you that brace. That's this brace right in here. You have 2 of them, cut one, and if it's going to go this way, so it's going to arc up. And that goes in here, and it goes right in here. So I'm actually gonna have to remove these really quick. Do apologize about that. That's the problem when you work on kits at 4 a.m. I'm kidding, it's not 4 a.m. It's 3:30. go ahead and remove this. Luckily it's only 2 screws. Alright, we'll do this. Alright, so this arcs up, just remember it arcs up. Slide this down. I'm going to use 2 body clips to clip this so it doesn't go all the way down, but I need to install these first. Actually, before you do that, you have these big giant rubber grommets, these O-rings. Go ahead and slide those in. Now I can do this. And we're almost finished with this little section. Just 2 screws, and then I can use the body clips. And there we go, that is snug. All right, so perfect. All right, so you're gonna be looking at the second hole. So second hole, that's where you want the body clip to go through. You just grab the body clip and just slide it on through. And that's where it's going to sit. So I'm gonna go over here to this other side. And so, oop, pushed it up too far. Doesn't matter, it's just second hole. That's where it goes. And then push this all the way down. And that's it. So this completes this. Now I can actually move onto the front. So the rear is now complete. I'm going to begin with the front chassis now. So I'm on page 11, part 21. And I'm going to begin with this piece here. So I'm going to need the front tub. So here's the tub. Right, it looks like this. I'm going to go ahead and flip it upside down. So this is the top part. Right, this is where your servo is going to go. Just flipping it, and this will just key in. So if you look at those 2 little holes, these holes, this will key in right here. Right here. Now I'm gonna need 2 screws that are 10 millimeters long, which I don't have any, they're all 8. Maybe these are 10. Yes, these are 10. The only thing is, these are hex screws. Don't know why they are mixed. 3 by 10. Oh, right. These 3 by 10. Here we go. Perfect. Found them. All right. These are standard Phillips. So I'm going to use my Phillips number 2. Now, when you're running these cars, it's very important that you do run the front bumper, especially the foam component, because if not, you will shatter the chassis. You will destroy it. There we go. Now that this is complete, I can go ahead and work with the front arms. So these are the front arms. Make sure that the pins slide freely. So you may have to ream them, maybe not. Tamiya's arms are actually usually pretty good. You generally don't really have to ream much on them. But here we go. So now we have to find that piece with the bulkhead, that front bulkhead, which looks just like this. And just look for that bumper section. So we're going to take that bulkhead part, and notice this is directional. There is a front and a rear. Right, if you look at this, I'm going to go ahead and trim this lightly. And now that it's trimmed, I can go ahead and continue on with this. So I'm gonna face this toward me. So this little section is gonna point toward me. And the arms, notice the arms have that little section there. Point that away from you. So it'll go right in here. And then grab one of these pins and then just slide it on through. The pin will slide through. Now, those screws that for the longest time I was wondering where they went because they're short, those will go here. So this is gonna stop the pin on this side from sliding all the way through, which as far as I'm concerned, finally. So these are those 5mm length. That's a Phillips 1. And you don't even need to snug this up. As long as it's there, the only thing that's there is so that that pin doesn't slide out. That's the only reason why. So once you can no longer see a gap, that's it, just stop. All right, so that is that section. Now I'm gonna take the arm on the other side, again, point those away from you. I'm gonna slide the pin in. I'm gonna grab that other screw. I need to wash the towel. There's so much grease on there that it's getting more challenging to find black screws on it. So again, I'm just closing the gap. There we go. Now that I can no longer see the gap, everything is good. Golden. Now I'm gonna need 2 of those little set screws. So I'm gonna grab these 2 oppressors. And I'm gonna grab it right in here. I'm gonna apply it. These are your troop screws. That's really what they are. Just gonna set it there. I'm gonna grab the other one, drive it in. So I am going from the bottom, right, well, bottom to top, but we have it this way. So we have this part upside down. That's why we're going this way. So once it's installed, it will look like this. All right, so we have the 2 screws. Those are the 2 screws. We have the grub screw. Now here it says to leave it out about 1.5 millimeters. You can leave it out. This one is not. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this one back just a tad. And here we go. And at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and install the ball studs right over here. So I'm gonna need that 5.5 nut driver. And this will go back here. Generally ball studs, for example, on these kits, the ball studs are gonna hold your shocks. And those little plastic things that are built in, that'll generally be for a sway bar kit, if you get one. It does not come with one, but it's usually an option. Which on this car, you know, front sway bar would be really nice because it's rear wheel drive. That's the reason why, just to put more traction in the rear. Well, it depends, you have to drive it first, tune everything, but you know, sway bar is always a good idea. All right, here we go. So we have the 2 ball studs, the pins are in, the little set screws are in here, and then we have the 2 screws that hold the pins. And that is that for that part. Now we can go on to page 12. Here we go. Page 12, we now have this part of the tub. And this will just be installed. But if you look at this, so go ahead and flip it. So this is the bottom part. Now we're gonna go ahead and place these. The ball studs actually go forward. So I'm gonna place it this way just in the camera. So that's forward. Ball studs are gonna be facing forward. And this will just sit right on top. And you're gonna need 3, I think they're countersunk. Why did I say 3? It's 4. You're gonna need the 4 countersunk screws, 8 millimeters in length, and these will use a Phillips number 2. This is gonna hold this component. Now for these kits, there is an R version. The R version has some really nice anodized aluminum parts. Now Tamiya tends to use that blue anodized that you can see on some of these parts, such as these, but they look pretty good. Now, are they worth getting? Well, that depends on you. It depends on how much money you want to invest into the vehicle. The aluminum shocks are actually a nice little upgrade if you wanted to. Just depends again on what it is that you're doing with the vehicle. If you're just sort of messing around in a driveway, probably don't need them. If you want to be a little more competitive maybe with your buddies or somewhere else, then you may want to consider them. But let's see. So we have these, we're almost finished. And now I'm finished with that section. So now that I'm finished with the bottom, I can go ahead and flip this. Now this is facing sort of at an angle. I'm matching it to the instructions manual, which is off camera. But I'm gonna grab two of the ball studs. These ball studs are gonna go right here on this top portion, right on top. I'm gonna need that 5.5 millimeter driver. 5.5 will go here. And this is for the linkages for the front suspension. We have this. I'm going to start moving things off to the side. I'm actually, oh, here they are. They're a little shorter. I thought it was the longer one. Let's see, 4 millimeter. No, they're not 4 millimeters. They're, let me look at 10 millimeter. These are not 10 millimeter. These are way too short. 1, 2, these 8. These are 8 millimeter. And this is almost 12. Oh, good job, Tamiya. Oh, here we go. Sorry, Tamiya, I'm gonna apologize. I think I was just looking at the wrong. There we go, 10. All right, considering they've screwed up on the other screws. All right, so these are the 10 millimeter. Make sure that you have those. Those are gonna go on these first, on these sides. So this is where the servo goes, off to the sides. And you're gonna drive 6 millimeters of them in. So you're gonna leave only 4 millimeters out. So 4 millimeters. Let's see, oh, almost. Alright. So now the other one's going to be 4 millimeters as well. And not too far. too far out. There we go. All right, those are in place. Now, I'm gonna need these little hats. So these little aluminum hats, those are gonna go right on top. Now, I'm actually gonna use thread lock for this. I'm gonna use the blue stuff. Don't use the red stuff. The red stuff really holds everything, and then good luck taking it off. Blue is all you need. Actually, for these, you probably don't even need blue. Probably don't need anything. All right, there we go. All right, so those are these little hats right here. Now, right in there. So we've done this section, this, and those two little hats. So this is just allowing us to use thread lock, which I used. And that is it for this component. So now we can move on to some of the front suspension. Right, now I'm working with the front. I went ahead and took these off the parts tree. So they're identical. It doesn't matter if you mix them or not. You're gonna need the 4mm set screws. So these little grub screws right here. So this thing, camera's not focusing, but they go back here. You're gonna drive them in halfway. So you want 2mm to stick out. All right, that's a little too much, so just partially turn it out. I'm gonna grab the other one, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing. So here we go, drive this in. So again, you want about 2mm out. Maybe someday, oh, actually that was good. I was about to say maybe someday I'll get so good at this stuff I won't need a ruler anymore. I'll just be able to eyeball everything. Good. So the difference is going to be between one set and the other is where the ball stud goes. So we're going to have that spacer, and you're going to have a ball stud that is much longer. So these are the two. That's going to be the difference between this one and this one. Other than that, there isn't a difference. I don't know why I flipped both of them instead of just the one. Next thing that we're going to need are the spindles. Now the spindles, these are pretty easy. They have a lot of parts. You're gonna need 2 of these 0.5 millimeter, and for some reason it calls for 2 instead of 1. I have no idea why. The only problem is, don't see enough of them. No, those are different. Let's see. Yeah, for both of them, but there's only 4. That is the strangest thing. Alright. Yeah, these are different, but they will fit. Yeah, these go on the outside, so these would go on the outside. Oh, I see. Alright, perfect. Alright, good. Nope, everything was fine. So we're gonna put 2 of these in. And then we're gonna grab those 2 other thin ones, and those are gonna go on the other one, which I ended up picking up the same one. These will go right in here. Now, once I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and grab a bearing. Bearing's gonna slide right in. Now I'm gonna need this little blue spacer. So this is about 1.5 mm, 1.5, so that will go here. Again, really nice color for something you're not gonna see. Once that one's complete, I'm going to go ahead and do the other one. So I'll go ahead and slide a bearing in there, and I will put the spacer inside. And now I can go ahead and grab this, put this on through, and once this is in here, I'm just going to go ahead and grab the other bearing. And now, so these are a little thicker, that's how you can tell them apart. So this one will go and sit right on top of the bearing. And press the bearing in. Here we go. Just like that. And at this point, just to hold everything, I'm gonna grab one of these body clips and I'm just going to insert one of them. So this will hold it in place for now. Now I'm going to complete the other side. So this one, I'm going to do the same thing, slide it through. Now that I slid this through, I can grab a bearing, slide the bearing in. And now that the bearing is in, I can go ahead and grab that thicker one. So just make sure that the one that has that thicker outer diameter, that's the one that you want on the outside. I'm going to grab the other clip and I'm going to set it in here. Again, the bearing is going to stick out a little, so that's normal. Don't worry about it. Now we have to deal with the ball studs. So the question is, which is going to be which? And as long as you install one on one side and the other on the other, it will be fine. So this one can go on top, this one can go on the bottom. The only thing now is those long ball studs. All right, here we go. So now I have the two sides. This is now complete, so I can move on to page 13, step 25. So page 13, step 25, I'm gonna go ahead and grab these little C-hubs right in here. And there's also some other parts that are needed according to the manual. So if we look at this, we have the C-hubs, but we're gonna need these two little pieces that clip together. So we're gonna go ahead and look for those. And those are those little tiny ones. So where we cut these off, it's these little tiny pieces right in here. Now you're going to need a little bit of CA glue, super glue, whatever it is that you have. And when you put them together, you are going to have to pay attention to the orientation. I'm trying to snap these together. Oh, I keep moving. Alright, so they go. Camera's probably not going to pick them up, but on two sides they have two little tabs. On the other side it has a little recess, so you need to make sure that you line them up. So you see tab, knot, that one has a tab, and then knot on the other side. So it goes just like that. Oops. Oh, these are a pain. All right. Anyway. So these are little bushings that will go inside of these. Now, I'm still trying to hold them. Let's see. Tab on any of these. All right, there's a flat side. Do all have a flat side. So now you can use a little bit of CA glue just to hold them. I'm just gonna place them carefully in here, and that'll work as well. So if you put them carefully, they will go in. If not, just apply a little bit of CA glue to keep them together. There we go. Yeah, these are actually a little tough to hold on, or to keep in place, I should say. Oh no, almost had it. There we go. And there it is. All right, so they are both ready. I'm gonna go ahead and pick one up. So now that I have this, I will hold it this way, and this one's gonna go first. I'm gonna go ahead and orient this downward, so that will go in here. And I'm gonna need little spacers. One goes in here, the other one goes in the bottom. And then I can drive screws in there, which will be the 8mm screws. It's going to be these. So I'm going to need 2 for that one, 2 for the other. And I'm going to need those little bushings. I call them spacers, but it's these little gray ones. So it's these little gray cylinders. Here we go. So those little gray cylinders. I'm just going to drop one in. So I'm going to start with the top. Now I was separating parts to use on the right side and left side. They're identical. The thing is, I just grabbed one from one side and then the screw from the other. Well done there. All right, we'll even it out. I'll place this in here. Do not over tighten this. If you over tighten this, 1, you can damage the plastic, but 2, your steering might bind. So that's something you want to be mindful of. All right, and that moves freely. All right, so there is one. So now we have to do the other. Now keep in mind that the other one's gonna be a mirror image, so this one has to look like this. Don't flip it accidentally. So this one will have to look like this. And the ball is going to have to go like that. If not, you're going to end up having to remove the parts and then redoing it. Go ahead and place this in here. Now that bushing is very important. Without that bushing, well, the screw can just go right on through. And even if you manage to put a screw that fits well, let's just say add a washer, there's going to be way too much play. It's not going to steer well, or it may bind. So you definitely need to use these bushings. Here we go. And that one is set. So we've completed step 26. Now from step 26, I can move on to the turnbuckles. So I'm gonna have to do the turnbuckles for these. You're gonna use the long ones. Now, if you recall from the short ones, the short side was right thread. Nothing has changed. So this is right thread, this is long. One of the things to keep in mind is you're going to orient them the way you did on the rear. So whatever way it's facing in the rear, that's the way you want these to be. And I cannot use this here, so I have to flip it and do this side first. These are too long for this tool. All right, so let me remember. All right, so this is left thread. So this long side is the left thread. Right, now I have the turnbuckles. So again, they have to be oriented the same as the rear. So if you look at the rear, we have the long side on the right-hand side, short side on the left. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna take the long side, put it to the right, and the short side is gonna go to the left. So that little hex, put that on the left side. So I'm gonna go ahead and just click these in because these will go on the top, right in here. That way I don't accidentally mix them up again. Well, not that I mixed them up. But that is it. So I can go ahead and grab these now. So I'm gonna go ahead and face this again this way. This will go here, and I am missing a ball stud right in here. That's where these are gonna clip onto. So here are all the ball studs. 5.5 millimeter driver, it goes right in here. A little more. A lot more. There we go. Now I can go ahead and clip this on. And that is it. Now I can grab the other ball stud. That will go right in here. And just now I can clip this one on. There we go. And the next thing to do is to drive the pins through. So we have this. Now a quick little note. Drill a hole through here. Well, maybe we won't need to. Let me just see what the pins look like. All right, they look like this. Yeah, there should be a hole through, but those are the little spacers. This is interesting. It's not telling me to drill a hole through. Let me see. Here's the instructions. We just have to firmly tighten. That is it. So firmly tighten the shaft and nothing else. Interesting. Well, that's what it says. That's what we'll do. And then I'll double check it. Now, the last thing I want to do is to lose one of these in the middle of a run. Right, so I'm going to face that groove up. I can't get this through. All right, that's oriented up. I'm trying to just line it up with this. Drive that in there. Perfect. And now I can grab a set screw and tighten that. I'm going to use these aluminum set screws because I only see one steel. Right, now I'm going to try to press on it and see if it slides. It does slide, doesn't go out though. I'm going to try to drive the set screw farther in. Actually, it gets stuck right there, so that might be enough. That's enough, that's not going anywhere. All right, so I can grab the other set screw. See, and this still moves freely. Perfect. Now I'm gonna grab this. Again, send the pin through it. Face it. Now, I believe I said up. It's up according to how I'm holding it, but I'm holding this upside down. So it faces down relative to the car, really. I'm gonna do the same with this one. Oh yeah, that is not going anywhere. All right. And suspension again, once again, moves freely. As you can see, this will need to be adjusted, but I can do that later on. So I'm gonna have to tighten this. Probably loosen this one, tighten that, loosen this one. Actually, this one, tighten that in. Because my camera's all the way off. Really far off. But that is it for page 13. Actually, I was supposed to tighten it all the way to 4mm. I'll just do that off camera. And talks about electronics servo. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to work with this. So the electronics I'm going to install later. Right, so a quick note on the turnbuckles. There's two long ones, two short ones. The short ones are the ones for the camber, the long ones are for your steering. Now to continue with the steering, we're gonna need this piece and those two pieces. I'm gonna go ahead and take these off. This came off pretty clean. All right, now I'm gonna need to install on this one, 2 ball studs. So this side goes down, the smooth side goes up, and I'm going to point it away from me. The ball studs are gonna go closest to me. So we're gonna go ahead and grab 2 of them, and the only ball studs that you're gonna have left are these black ones, so these 4. So we're gonna grab 2 of them. And for these, you will be needing a driver. So this looks like a 2mm, should be a 2mm. Just gonna drive them in all the way. And we'll go ahead and grab this right over here. Drive these all the way. And now, I'm gonna need 2 bearings. So it's gonna be these small bearings. I'm just gonna drop them in right in here. So the bearings will just go right on top of this. And I'm also gonna need 2 of those bearings, and they're gonna go right in here. Wait, nope, no they're not. Those are the wrong ones. It's these little smaller ones. Right, they should fit right in, which these do, just like that. And once you have those bearings, then you can go ahead and do the other parts. It just makes it easier. So now we have those 2 bearings, so we're gonna grab these components, and again, I'm pointing this forward, and this arm will go over here. So this one will go under, just like this. And then, once it's in here, it should fit right in there. And we're gonna need an 8mm screw right here. And that's what's gonna hold it in place. Now it's important that you do not over tighten this. Now I'm gonna go ahead and check, make sure this is an 8mm. It is. All right, so again, orientation goes this way. This goes in here. All right, that does not go there. There we go. And what I mean by that is on the table. I was joking. All right. So here we go. And remember, if you over tighten this, 1, you can damage the plastic, but 2, you can bind the steering. So do not over tighten everything. So this should be free. If not, just loosen it. If it's not free, you just need to loosen it a little. Now this one, same thing. Notice this will go here. And we're gonna need, again, another 8mm screw. We have our 8mm screw. Now, I measured these at 8mm, but considering Tamiya, everything's been off. These are probably the 10s. These are probably the 8s, because that was actually 9mm. It's gonna be these. This is 7. I'm gonna go ahead and replace this, because it comes out just a little. So I think this is the wrong screw. At least it's already threaded, so it'll make it easier for me to install the other one. And now I can use this other one, and I can attach it to this. Great. At least the screw didn't go out flying. All right. There it is. So now I can fit the bearings. So those other bearings, those go right in here. And there should be two bearings, there's two bearings that go on the bottom, which are those that we installed previously here. So now that this is facing this way, this will point to the same direction. This will just drop right on. And now that this has dropped on here, notice the orientation. We have the ball studs right here. This should be pointing toward the rear. You can't really tell in the picture. It should be pointing in the rear. But these can now go ahead and be clicked on here in those two little ball studs. So right in there. So that's your steering. Right, so these are the changes. I went with these screws here. They're the shorter ones, I found them, so now they actually fit flush. And I removed those screws that I had there, which are these with the shorter heads, and I went ahead and installed them in here. So these should now work flawlessly. Should. And they do. So let me go ahead and use the other one. By use the other one, I mean snap the other one in place. And here we go. So that is all set. At this point, I'm actually really close to mating the chassis together. The only thing that catches my attention is on this page, it has nothing about putting a screw in here to hold this down. So I'm really curious. I'm intrigued actually. So we're gonna go ahead with this and I'm gonna move on. Now, depending on the wheelbase, the length that you're going to be running, you're going to be mating the two ends, the front and the rear, at a different spot. Now remember, this goes in here. So this is the shortest wheelbase, and then it elongates from there. So the question is the wheelbase. Now, the body that I'm running, I believe, is a 225, which means I'm going to be going with this one. And then later on, you can always change it. So we're going to be going with this. So I'm going to have to find those 4 posts, and those 4 posts, that's what I'm going to end up using. Now, apparently those posts have a little tab, and that tab needs to be removed depending on the wheelbase. But those are very easy to identify. Those are these long posts right here. And I think that tab that it's referring to, I think it's just the excess material, because they do not have a tab. So it's probably just giving instructions to clean them out. So 4 posts, there they are. Now for the 225, which is what I will be running. Now on rear wheel drive, you probably do want to run the biggest wheelbase. The only thing is the body that I'm running is for that measurement. So if we look at the dots here, orient this the correct way, I am going to be using, so the top part, so here, let me separate this again. So if we look at this, I'm going to be using these 2, but then on the chassis, I'm going to be using the front 2. So it's the well, I guess front two with front two. Right here. So that's where I'm gonna set this. And I have to use the post for that. There is a little bit of play right now. Now the body that I'm going to be using will be this one. This is by Biddy Design. And as you can see, the body can be used with 210 or 225. So I'm gonna go with the longest wheelbase, which is the 225. So now, at this point, I need the countersunk screws, and the countersunk screws that are needed are 10 millimeters long. So countersunk screws are right here. These are 10 millimeter. Use these. These are already here. And these will go bottom to top. So I'm going to begin with this one right here. And I'm going to go ahead and place this inside. Now this keys into the tub. So I'm going to hold it in here. Notice this is out. And now I'm going to start driving this in. Now I'm not going to tighten it fully, because I still want this to flex a little so I can install the rest of them. Alright, and drop a screw. And accidentally let go. Off. Let's try this again. Again, I'm not tightening it all the way. Grab the next one, place it here. Now in all of these, one of the things that you're going to notice is there's a flat side. So if you look at this, it's flat and then rounded. This flat side faces the servo box. Right in here. Do not over tighten these. Snug, again, snug is all you need. All right. And that's it. So that's what's gonna hold the chassis. Now everything is, this is now bound. Now we can go to the front mounts. Oh, actually, I need this reinforcement. Yes, so I need to get those reinforcements. And those are right here. So if you go to the parts tree with that motor plate, they're back here. Right, and these, let's see, I do not have the servo in yet. Let me see if I need to have the servo in or not. So these would go like this. Those key in right in here, and then this back part keys in the back. So it would go just like this. All right, perfect. So no, servo does not matter. I don't need to have it in. That goes right there. And now I can use 6 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Right here. It would be a lot easier to put these kits together if everything was in different bags and you had, for example, an A bag, a B bag, and then the parts that you needed for that section, if everything were there, screws, everything, rather than having to look for everything. And that's one of the things of Tamiya kits, many Tamiya kits. It's a scavenger hunt every time. Here we go. So again, I'm trying to keep this in real time just so that you can just follow along. I actually like this scale. This is, I don't know whether to call it a 1/12 scale. You can adjust the wheelbase, but something that Tamiya does have is Tamiya is very good at making scale RCs. So you can get different bodies. You can get a Miata body for this, for example. You can get a bug body, right? The Volkswagen. There's a variety of bodies, and it will look correct. It'll look right. Very scale. And that's one of the things that I do admire about Tamiya kits. Again, I don't like the building process because of the instructions manual, but I do like the look. The look, I think, is great. So at this point, I'm now on page 17, step 33, and I'm going to be working with the front end. So I'm going to go ahead and flip the car. I'm going to leave this over here. And now I need to do the front portion. So for the front portion, I'm going to need a variety of parts. One, I'm going to need this large tongue. And do that. It's not bad. All right, I'll have to clean it up a little. You can use a knife, but I don't recommend that you use a knife. Use a file, a fine file. That is the best way to go. Unless you're very good with the knife, then it won't matter. But you won't cut yourself like you would with a knife using a file. I was tempted to say you're not going to cut yourself with the file, but you never know. There's people out there that are very talented at interesting things, if we can call it interesting. All right, so we have detached this piece. So we have this piece. We have the tongue. Now I need the 2 mounting posts. And the 2 mounting posts have to be in these 2 very similar trees. So just remove those. Now I have the post, so I can now begin doing this. So at this point, we need the ball studs, and there's only 2 ball studs, and those are those black ball studs. So these ball studs are going to go on here. Now you can go in or out. I'm going to build it as it is on the kit, so I'm going to put them on the outside position. And it's on the outer part, so that's the inside, that's the outside. Just if you look at that countersunk area, that's how you know what the front is. So right now, the front is pointing toward me, or toward the bottom of the screen. Here we go. All right, perfect. So here it is. Now we need 2 8mm screws. Here we go, countersunk, perfect. And I'm gonna place this, actually I don't even need this yet. I'm gonna grab this, they're gonna go right in here. So this will click right here. And so now I'm gonna go ahead and place this, and I'll start driving this in. And here we go. And now we can go ahead and install these body posts. So these, notice they key in right in here. And then we just use the regular screws, here they are, 8mm. So 8mm in length. All of these are 3mm in diameter, so 8mm in length. There we go. And the next one. So this is the other body post. And that is that complete section. So now there's another tie rod section that we need to do, and that's with this piece. So this is that 12mm that has just been sitting. Let me measure it from over here somewhere. I'm gonna start at the 10. Sure, we'll call that a 12. And it should be a 1.5mm driver. So for this one, go ahead and grab a rod end. Now, you're gonna drive this in, and when you drive it in, keep in mind this is a 12mm, let's say it's a 12mm. Drive it in just past 5mm. And the reason why is because the other side will screw in. So if you put it about 5, once you start screwing in the other end, you'll get the length that you need. There we go. And wait, oh my God. I said screw it in about 5, but I left only 5 out. I don't want to leave 5 out, I want to leave 7. The reason why is there's going to be a gap. All right, 1 more millimeter. All right, so that's 7, so now I can drive the other one in. If you have one of these T-wrenches with this little section, it looks like this. This is a lifesaver. If you had 2, that would be even better. I don't know where I placed the other one. I used to have 2 identical wrenches. This is actually my old HPI. I still have it from, you can't really see, HPI. This thing's 20 years old or something. That's from my first hobby grade RC, which was an HPI RS43 SS. It was a Nitro RC. That was a fun car. All right, we have the turnbuckle now. So the turnbuckle is ready to go. And now, just gonna move on to the next page. I see this little section here with the 2 set screws, but I'm not quite sure, to be honest. Here they are. So I'm gonna figure this out on the, oh, I see. Is that what holds it in? So those go in here, in these holes. Let me go ahead and do it. I'm not moving on to the next page yet. All right, so those go on the little holes. And let's see, how far in do they go? Why is this off? Let's see. Empty 5. idea why it's on the side. MT7, MT4, MT5. Right, that's the part number. Well, I'll place them in here. I don't know. I'm sure there's a purpose later on. Maybe that's what actually holds them in. Now I'm gonna go to the next page. All right, so 18. Now 18, I'm just gonna worry about the top portion. I'm not gonna worry about the bottom portion. The bottom portion has to do with electronics. That's for a later time. But the step 34, we have this, we'll get it out of the way. So I'm gonna be grabbing this. Now this is your servo link. So, well, your steering link. So this will go to your servo, which I just dropped inside of the tub and it fits perfectly on a little cavity. Which means that we need 2 ball studs. But we'll worry about these later. So we'll leave that off to the side. And right now, what we need is to install this. And now I know why there was no screw. It was because of those. So here we're going to be using the long screws. So these long screws, these are those 23. That's not even 20, so these are not it. Right, I haven't used any other longer screws, and those are the longest screws. Those are not 23. Are they measuring the head? They have to be. Oh, that's 21. Alright, calls for 23 millimeter screws. I have some longer screws here that are not part of the kit. They're 21. I don't want to use them though because these are the ones in the kit. Alright, according to this, there's supposed to be 23 millimeter screws. I do not see any 23 millimeter screws in this kit at all. These are the longest screws, and they are not 23. These would barely hold on. I'm gonna swap these out. These are a little longer. These are 21s. Well, that's fun. Now, if you don't have any longer screws to swap them out, then just use those in the kit. But considering I haven't used any long screws, there's no way I could have mistaken them. Now I'm gonna grab this. Never mind, I'm not going to swap them. Why does it say 23? They're not even 23. But these are the correct ones. If you go with anything longer than this, it's not going to work. Just figured that out. So now I have to remove these. All right, so don't trust the numbers on the sheet. Just trust your, I was going to say instinct, but I don't know about that. So they're the longest screws, so just use those. And everything is really great. Shocks are always fun to build. I'm kidding, I actually don't really like shocks. Well, I don't like building them. And it's not really the building of the shock, it depends on the shock. I like Techno shocks, associated shocks. I don't like these Tamiya shocks, and I don't like Traxxas shocks. The basic ones, GTRs are fine. And the reason why is because of the E-clips. I just dislike E-clips. Quick note, Oh my god. Alright, so previously I was saying that I'm gonna have to backtrack. I just realized something. But I'm gonna empty out this bag first, which everything's getting stuck. On the chassis, for the steering, there is a little correction that I have to make, and I just realized it because the screws are different colors. So those silver screws to my left, those are the ones that go on the steering. That's why I couldn't figure it out. Doesn't change the fact that those other screws were the wrong size. So again, don't build RCs at 3 a.m. So these two screws, yeah, it's these two. So those are the ones. I'll replace those later on, so you'll see them replaced. Right now, I'm going to just worry about the shocks for now. Now, for the shocks, I'm going to use that green slime. I'm going to use that, and I'm going to begin the build. So we're going to have the shock bodies. I'm just going to take the shock bodies out, and then you want to trim those. Might as well take the caps. So I'm just going to go ahead and separate everything. And I'm going to separate these as well. There we go. Now there, I believe the R version has all the aluminum shocks and all the, those nice components. Now the shock bodies, you do want to smooth them out, and the reason why is you don't want anything that the spring can catch on, or else it's going to change the dampening. So that is something that is very, very important. There's always a satisfaction once the kit is almost complete, but to be honest, the closer you get to the end, the longer it feels that it's taking. The reason why I say it feels is because that's what it seems, even though it's not. But it just feels like the closer you get to the end, the longer it is for you to actually complete the kit, and that's perfectly normal. But at some point you will finish the kit, or throw it away. You'll finish the kit. So this, I'm going to put off to the side. These are the 4 that we need. Now, to start the build, you're going to need the shafts. So the shafts are right over here. Here they are. Now I have all of these little rubber pieces right here, so I'm trying to separate everything. I'm going to take these body clips and just place them off to the side. These pins are for the wheels. I'm going to place them off for the side as well. That's the reason why I have those body clips on here. The manual calls for these clips. That's because it's not in order. Usually, most kits would just have you put the pin and put the hex in, not these. Alright, so now to get started. The first thing, we need to take one of these shafts. Now, we're going to need the pistons for the shocks, and you have a variety of pistons here, but you have to trim them carefully because you don't want a flat spot here. You want to maintain the piston round. Now, it really depends on the type of oil that you're going to use, so you can actually tune. So there's 1 hole, 2 holes, 3. 3 is going to allow more oil to go through. So if you want to go with a heavier weight oil, you can use the 3. Lighter oil, you can use the 1. It really depends on your tuning, but those are your options. So as of now, right now, I have to go ahead and cut these, so I'm going to go ahead and grab my snips. So I can do this carefully. So let's see. No. Alright, so I've removed that. So we've got, I want to play around with them. I guess I can cut most of these things. Well, I'm not going to worry about it. So what I'm doing is I'm just cutting these off, and then there's a little tab, and then that tab, I just trim that off. Now again, you can use a little file to make it nice and smooth. So use your snips to just snip it off initially, and then use a file to finish it off. Now I'm going to try different setups, but I'm going to try the 2 holes in the front and then the 3 in the rear. So we'll see how that works. That's my goal, although I am going to be using the supplied oil. There. Alright. So now we're going to grab a shaft, and we're going to grab one of these little pistons. So these, they are uniform, so they look the same top and bottom. So I'm just going to go ahead and, yep, that fits perfectly, so I don't have to trim anything. And they should all fit perfectly, yeah. So I'm not going to bother checking them all. But now I'm going to grab these little E-clips, and E-clips are annoying. You want to set them on the groove, but you want to hold them with your finger, and then you want to get the pliers, and you want to push them in. You have to be careful that they stay straight. So to be honest, longer pliers are better. There we go. So that's one. So I would recommend that you do all the shafts first, every single one. So just do the bottom and then do the top. The top is much easier because the piston will be installed. Because the piston's installed, you can just rest the clip on top of the piston and then just guide it in. So we'll go ahead and push this. All right, let's grab another one. And they really don't like the twisting motion, they will break. That one's smooth. Let's try this again. That one's smooth as well. Let's try this one. There we go. Alright, so we'll go ahead and put a piston. So this is what I meant. So you grab the E-clip, just rest it on top, and then you just drop it on the table. It's a good thing they include extra E-clips because sometimes you will lose them or break them. See, that's the piece from that first one I was trying to, where'd it go? Anyway, I broke that E-clip. Alright, so there's one. So this is a 2. Place the 2 over here actually. And now we'll do this. And that's another 2. So I'll put the 3s over here. Go. And I've definitely got out all the pistons, so there it is. Everything just blends in after a while. Alright, so all the pistons are installed. Now that the pistons are installed, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take some of this green slime and just dab all the shafts. And the reason why is these are about to go in through the O-rings, so I don't want them catching. That's the reason why. Alright, so now that they are lubricated, I can go ahead and grab these little rubber pieces. So these rubber pieces, I'm going to go ahead and lube every single one of them. And these will just go at the bottom of the shock body. So I'll put 2. There's another one. So let me grab some more. And there we go. There. All right. Next step, we're going to put one of these shafts inside. So just be careful, it's going to want to push those O-rings. All right, so there it is. There we go. And now I can go ahead and grab one of these lower caps and I can go ahead and tighten this. And you're going to tighten it all the way. But do not over tighten. There's no need. Now this does move up and down freely. There's plenty of lubricant. So again, this is a 2, and then we'll have a 2, and then a 3, and a 3. So let's go ahead and drive this other 2 in. There we go. And this one is complete. Now, another thing too, when you're threading, it really doesn't matter what it is that you're threading, but say you're threading, well here it's plastic on plastic, or plastic to some type of metal, such as aluminum. One little recommendation, and I do this in some of my other videos, is go left, and then once you feel the click, then start threading right. And that'll save you from cross-threading items. There's part of that E-clip I broke. It's just better, right? Saves you a headache. Because once you cross-thread something, it's a pain. I mean, I have the tools to thread, but you know, maybe you do, maybe you do not. Still, if you don't have to, then why do it? All right, perfect. So we have all of this so far. So now we can do a variety of things. We can put the end links on, or we can fill them with oil. It just depends. If you follow the instructions, it wants you to put the end links on. Now the end links, it's using the short ones, but you can use the long ones in certain applications. I don't know if in this one you can, but on a B6.3, for example, it has short and long. And then it has the spring mount, which it has, you know, some shorts and longs. Depending on the ride height, you can play around with it. This one only appears to have this one size. Well, to be honest, I don't need that yet. I only need the end links. Now, for the end links, there's a variety of ways that you can do it. If you have the special shock pliers, you can go ahead and use those. If not, then you can just use a towel or a paper towel. And I'm actually going to be using these pliers which have no teeth. You can use pliers that have teeth. It'll work. But I'll go ahead and grab these. Now the closer here, the more torque you will get. But this should be all you need. And these are just going to thread to the right. And then, oh, this was actually kind of easy. All right, I still need to thread a little more. Maybe that's why it was easy. All right, there we go. So then it said, do not put the spring or anything on yet. So I'll just leave that. Go ahead and remove this one. And if you have snips, I mean, just snip it off. Surprisingly easy to get it started. They must be pre-threaded. That's the only conclusion I can come to. Go ahead and use a driver. All right. And here goes the next one. Actually just going to place this one here so I don't have to worry about it, then I can just do them both. There's only 2 more left. So as soon as I finish the one, I know the other one's next. So let me go ahead and grab the towel. So I'm just threading these, so as soon as the threads disappear, that's where I'm stopping. Just a little more on this one. And that's one of the reasons why the shocks, I like the ones that have a little nut instead of the E-clips, because then you can just put a tool there, and then you can just spin this, and it tightens. There we go. Alright, and that is it. So at this point I can go ahead and fill them all with oil. You really want to stand something to put them. I'm just going to use the factory Tamiya oil, although you really want to know exactly what weight you're putting in. But for now I'm going to use what came in the factory box. So I filled it about up to, there's about 1 millimeter that's not filled, and I did that on purpose. I'm just pushing this up, and it just getting rid of the air bubbles, so it just dropped. Well, the oil level dropped. I'm not sure. The camera probably cannot pick up the meniscus. Oh, actually, these are surprisingly smooth. Surprisingly smooth for the type of shock. Of course, all right. So I'm not gonna put more oil because that's enough. Some of it may leak out. Let's see. All right. Moved. Damn it. Sorry, I apologize. This is sticking to my fingers. There we go. So, once you hear that, go to the next one. Oh, this one accidentally fell to the top, so no big deal. All right, this one had a lot more air, I think. Those little air bubbles. Alright, so that wheel's gonna work because I'm not gonna look for my shock stand right now. Let's see, so now moving on to the next one. So the same thing, you just go up and down, and then the air bubbles will start popping up and you're gonna see the meniscus form. And if you overfill, a lot of that oil is just gonna leak out once you start putting the cap on. But try not to overfill. But it's better that you have a little too much than too little oil, because that excess oil will seep out as you're putting everything together. Versus if you have too little, then you're gonna have air inside and it's not gonna dampen properly. Now, because this is rear wheel, maybe at some point I may go keep this oil in the rear, just go softer in the front. Sorry, stiffer, thicker oil in the front. Just a heavier weight. Maybe, we'll see. There we go. Right. The other thing too is keep track. You can always mark the shocks just so you don't mix up the 2s and the 3s or 1s and 2, whatever it is that you go with, so you know what the fronts and rears are. All right, we have that. And the last shock cap. Now, the other thing too, let's just say you accidentally don't keep track, you can feel. So this is a 2, this is a 3. Right, if we look at this, And that's a 3. I mean, I know they're 3s because of how I place them, but these are going to be similar versus something like this. I mean, you can feel it's a lot softer because of that extra hole versus these, right? This is a 2. That's a 2. So that's another way. The 3s, the oil's going to be able to push through a lot easier. All right, so what did I say? These are the 2s. All right, so these are going to go in the front. All the springs are the same. So I'm going to go ahead and just mount the springs now. And now that's going to be the front, so I'll actually put these over here toward the front. And this one here as well. So I need this little section here. Here we go. All right, so that's another one. So now the softer ones, those are in the rear. At some point, you should consider getting a spring kit so you can actually really tune the suspension on these. If you just want this for a parking lot, for example, messing around, then don't worry about it. You don't have to spend money on, a bunch of tuning parts. It'll be just fine. Here we go. All right. And place the spring. Now I need this portion. And these will be my rears. Now, I'm not going to worry about these spacers, these little clips. These are the preloads for the shocks. So I won't worry about them now. That's something once I start running them or I look at the ride height, then I'll actually use them and install them. But for now, that's what I'm going to be using. So that covers everything up to step 37 on 19. So now I'm going to go ahead and mount them. So that'll be step 38. And then, oh look, that's the rears. See, so this is actually the opposite. So here it's telling me to use the 2 holes in the rear and the 3 hole in the front. I'm not sure I want to do that because that would make my front a lot softer. So I'm actually going to do the opposite of what this is saying. But that's something that I know. So again, the book actually calls for the 2s in the front and the 3s in the rear. Wait, hold on. I got this backwards. It wants the 2 in the rear, which would make it stiffer. I did 3 in the rear. Yes, so I am doing the opposite. So now I'm clicking these on. And again, the reason why I'm doing the opposite is because I want the softer rear suspension. Just for traction. So I'm going to go ahead and just use some pliers to stick these in. Oops. That's the first. Let's try it again. Now, something that's important when you're applying pressure and putting a shock in, apply pressure directly onto this, to the mount. Don't apply pressure halfway in here because you may bend the shaft or damage the body. You will damage something. That's the reason why. Let's see. So I can go ahead and attach these here. attach this here. This is a little tough. Right, I'm gonna have to use larger pliers. All right, and that is it. So now I just need the ball studs that go right in here. And there are the ball studs. Now, I don't have any. Again, kit didn't come with any. So I'm gonna have to find some and we'll see. Oh, actually, it did. I apologize. The color's throwing me off. So these long ones, so those are those long ones that I wanted earlier on. So I'm gonna have to correct that. And then I'm gonna take those small ones. All right, perfect. So I just figured this out. So those are these right in here. So I'm gonna take these ball studs, put them in the rear, and that's where they go. And these are those long ones that I was looking for that I couldn't find with the spacers, which now I have to, actually that spacer just fell on my shoe. So I'm gonna go ahead and make those switches and we'll move on to the next step. All right, so those are replaced. Those are now placed. These are replaced, and now I have the spacers there as I should. So now I'm just going to clip these on. There's one. And two. All right. So now my suspension is fully active. Now, wheels and tires. The wheels and tires, I'm just waiting on them. They're already pre-mounted, so I don't have to worry about it. But really what you want to know about the wheels is you're going to stick the foam in. Now this here, it shows it as if it were cut. Usually you want some that are one piece. You can always just glue that together as well. Because let's just say you run way too much power. If you're just running a regular Tamiya brushed motor, you'll be fine. It doesn't matter, but you can put some CA glue on there just to glue the foam together. Or get some pre-mounted stuff. But I am gonna go ahead and just put the hexes on, mainly because I don't wanna have the body clips on there. I don't understand why it doesn't call for them earlier. But the hexes are gonna be in these trees. So 1, 2, and then the other 2 are gonna be in the other identical tree. And these hexes will hold those body clips in place. Now you may have to trim the hexes just a slight bit. You can also get some aluminum hexes. Aluminum hexes are really a great upgrade. Sometimes people's vehicles will stop running. They'll sort of make a winding sound like a and then people think it's, you know, something wrong with the gears, but many times it's just a hex. And then as soon as they take a wheel off, well, they'll struggle to take one wheel off because it'll just spin infinitely. And that's generally the sign. That's the telltale sign. All right, so now I don't want to hold it this way because I don't want this to just fall through. So I'm just going to hold it like this, take the clip off, and then I'm going to slide the pin through. Then once it looks even, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and grab the hex. Here, and then click on. It doesn't want to. This isn't such a big, oh, it did. No, it did not. Once you tighten the wheel will take care of it, which to be honest, I can use any wheel because these are 12mm hexes and then I can just tighten them in. So let's try this again. Alright, so can just use this. It's actually off of Fortec. Let's see, there we go. So I'm going to use this wheel. I'm just going to drive the wheel nut in and then drive it back out. There we go. So that one is in. Hopefully this one goes in so I don't have to do that, but we'll see. So again, take the body clip off, insert the pin. Now that the pin is in place, I'll grab the other hex. There. Alright, well that worked out. So now I just have to do the rear too. There we go. And we'll remove this one and we'll finally attach the last of the hexes. There we go. So it's just the first one that was a pain. Now that we have the hexes, move on to the front bumper. So now we're on step 44, page 22. So 44, page 22, we're going to need the foam. So grab the foam, and the foam's just going to slide right in. This is a very important piece. And then we're going to need this section right over here on this parts tree. And there's a smooth side and the non-smooth side. Smooth side goes toward the foam, so that goes toward the bottom, and this simply goes on top, and then we just use 2 of the 8mm, which are right here. And here we go. Right here. All right. And we have this. So that's the front bumper. Now we need to worry about the battery mounting system. The battery mounting systems, we're going to need a few things. One, we're going to take these off. I'm just going to set these off to the side. And you're going to need these. So these are really the ones that I need right now. So there's one. Here's the other one. And we have these. So these will just go here. You just use 8mm screws. So 8mm screws. 8, 10. It says 8. Let's go ahead and we'll grab these, and we're going to go from top to bottom. Go. I wish these were adjustable, but I guess it works. It's, you know, your average shorty pack will fit there, no problem. Just put a little bit of foam on each side and that'll work. The only thing that I'm wondering right now is everything that I have is 5mm bullet connectors. I wonder how that's going to fit, because this might be an issue. For me anyway. Alright, perfect. So these would now clip onto the bottom. And they would clip on just like this. Just like this on the tray. And then you would put the clips right in here. Now I am going to grab one of my shorty packs. I should have one right here. Yeah, there it is. Right. And see how that would fit here. I mean, regular size battery would fit. I'm trying to see if this would fit. Alright, so shorty, you definitely need some foam blocks. I have some foam blocks for... yeah, it's going to be an issue with the bullet connectors. I'm actually going to have to trim some of this plastic just so I can get the connectors in there. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're running 5mm connectors, 4mm, I don't have 4mm. I have no idea. But foam block here, foam block here. Traxxas has some really nice foam blocks that would probably be the perfect size. I need to find them. If not, if you have just something like this, you can always cut it. But that's, all right, that's one. So let's go ahead and just place the other one in here. No. All right, and that is it for the battery. So now the only thing that is left really is the car body. Well, and the electronics. But the electronics, those I'm gonna do off video. For this, this is the entire build for the actual kit. Once it comes to the electronics, you're just gonna be mounting them off to the side. So you're gonna have your servo. Servo would go in here. You would have your ESC on this other side. There is one other little item if you're going to be running a transponder that you may want to use, and that's this little piece right here. So if you're running a transponder, this is the piece that you want if the transponder is going to be clipped on here. Now the transponders that I have my own, so I'm just going to screw them on somewhere on the body. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're using transponders that many tracks will lend, you're going to need that little mounting plate. Now for the motor, you're going to put the motor in here, put the screws in, adjust the mesh. Well, actually once you do that, you're going to slide the pinion in, and then once you put the pinion, tighten that up, and then put the little cover on there. It's just a little dust cover, and then run the wires over. But that being said, this is it for this build. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe if you have not. Comment below. What are your build techniques? and I'll catch you in the next one.
What? Oh, my hair! My car! My rod!